environment. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve. Steve, over to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Jonathan, for putting on another great HLS Summit for our customers this week. It's great to be with you all and to be able to spend some time with you talking about what we're doing with Viva Engage. Last time I came here, and actually I'm going to take control if I could, please, Jonathan. Last time I joined you all, we shared a little bit about what we were doing with bringing some new capabilities to Viva Engage around some leadership scenarios, improvements around campaigns, also our focus on knowledge and how we want to bring a product called Answers in Viva to our customers. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time recapping on those things. If there's interest in learning more about those, maybe if we have time at the end, we can dig into some of those. I wanted to spend more time on some things that we've maybe talked about. We've made some announcements recently, or maybe you need just caught up on a few things that we've been doing recently. As Jonathan said, we'd love for you to use the Q&A to be able to ask your questions, and we'll try to get through as many of those things as we can throughout the rest of the 57 minutes or so that we have with you today. I'm going to first start by, in case you missed the memo on this, we are in the process of rebranding Yammer to Viva Engage. And I think I talked about this the last time for those of you that were here at the summit last time. But we are going through this process of rebranding Yammer to Viva Engage. We want to make sure that the overall purpose of this is we want to bring Yammer into our Viva employee experience platform. We believe that a lot of what Yammer provides to our customers is core to the employee experience that many of our customers want to bring to their employees. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit. But I did want to just catch you up, just in case you haven't been following along on our progress on the rebrand. So just to cover off on that, everything that you see in the gray, of course, is already passed. So those are things that we've already done, already accomplished, most recent of which being the mobile app rebrand. So if for any of you that have, or any of you or any of your employees that have the Yammer app on their phone, that should be rebranded to the Viva Engage app as of now. I think we've hit probably close to 80 or 90% of our mobile users by this point, but that rolled out on April 3rd. At the end of June is when we are going to be rebranding the web interface. So you'll see the web interface will update to Viva Engage. Also, Outlook, things like Outlook notifications, the SharePoint integrations, if any of you are using what was known as Yammer Embed, will also be updating those endpoints as well. Probably in the May timeframe, for those of you that are admins of your network, we'll put a banner in the web UI for our admins. Again, just a reminder that this is happening. And then also about 2 weeks before we actually do the web update, we'll provide a banner for end users so that they know that this change is coming. So we want to try to communicate this as much as possible. In fact, in some cases, over communicating, just so we make sure that the message is getting out. And then lastly, probably sometime before the end of 2023, most likely in the September-October timeframe, is when the URL or the domain will change. So for some period of time between June and, like I said, September-October timeframe, you'll notice that the web UI will say Viva Engage, but the URL will still remain something like web.yammer.com until we've had that domain name updated. But again, before we update that domain name, we'll send message center posts for those of you that are M365 admins so that you know when that domain name update is coming as well. So hopefully that gives you some insight into where we're headed with the rebrand. And of course, if you have any questions, please let us know. But we're excited about the rebrand and the opportunity to create consistency for many of you who know this has been sort of a challenge or a question that some of you have had. Oh, this is just a view of what the web experience will look like when we release that. We'll have, when this happens, we'll have a pop-up just alerting the employer, your employee or user, that this change has happened. Nothing changes from a functionality perspective. Here you'll see a little bit of what that interface will look like. Again, not a lot of changes, mostly cosmetic sort of see this gradient background, which is similar to what you see if you're using Viva Engage within Teams today. The navigation largely remains the same on the web experience. So it shouldn't be overly disruptive. Of course, we'll update the label up here to be Viva Engage, but we don't anticipate that this will be too disruptive for your employees. Okay, again, please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A if you have any further questions about the rebrand. All right, so let's move into, I first wanted to start off with a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of data to share with you about, what we're seeing and some of the impact that, a platform like Viva Engage has had on our customers. This is from the 2022 Work Trend Index, and there was a data point in that Work Trend Index that 43% of leaders say that relationship building is the greatest challenge that they have in this hybrid and remote work world. That employees feel like it's difficult, it's hard to create strong relationships, or actually there's weaker relationships amongst their team, and there's also a much greater risk of attrition. I'm sure many of you within the organizations that you work, employee retention is probably a top of mind objective that you continue to have challenges with. So I wanted to share with you this data that our data science team collected, and I'll give you a little bit of background into how we're thinking about this. What we found is that what we did is we looked at employees and their, when they started with an organization, and then approximately 2 years after, what was the impact of participating in Viva Engage over that time period. And what we did is we broke them out into cohorts. That first dark blue line, that first cohort is people that wrote a post in their first 90 days of being an employee. The bottom, the 44%, that light gray line, those are employees that took no action in Viva Engage in the first 90 days of employment. So what this shows is that for somebody that in their first 90 days, when they took the action of writing a post, they were 33% more likely to be retained as an employee approximately 2 years later if they took the action to write a post. If they took even a lesser action of just reacting to a post, a thumbs up, a heart, whatever it might be, they were still 22% better at being retained as an employee in the organization. And even when they took the most passive of activities, of just viewing a message in Viva Engage, they were still 11% more likely to be retained as an employee in the organization. Now, what we find interesting about this is that what we think this shows is that when people are actively participating in the culture of their organization, when they're contributing to their culture of the organization by writing a post, they're much more likely to be retained as an employee in the organization. Now, I'm not here to tell you that activity on Viva Engage is the silver bullet to all things employee retention. We all know that there's a lot that goes into it, right? There's, do you like, what's your manager like? What's your salary? What's your benefit? So there's a lot that goes into retention. We get that, but we think there's some connection. We're not going to say causation by any means, but we think that there's some connection between participating in the culture of an organization and retention of that person within the organization. The other thing, and this also goes back to the Work Trend Index statement that I started with around connections that people make. That concern that leaders have around employees being able to create connections within the organization. So we also looked at this. So we looked at the connections made across Viva Engage, and we defined a connection as a one-to-one interaction between two people. And that interaction could be a reply. So I replied to a thread that Jonathan started, or maybe I like a reply that Sarah started. That would be another connection. And these are all bi-directional, even a view. We also correlated that, or we included that as a connection point as well. And we made, and these connections are bi-directional, right? So if I connect with, if I reply to Jonathan, that's a connection. And if he responds to me, that's also a connection as well. So what we found in the last week, there were 420 million connections across, we're talking across all the, tens of thousands of customers that we have. 420 million connections were made last week. And that's up 38% from the same week last year. And overall, average weekly connections are up 62% across all of our customer networks. On average, we're seeing 14.1 unique connections per user formed, and this was just last week, and that's up 21% from the same time last year. So the point I want to make here is that we continue to see Viva Engage as a platform for people to make connections, and in fact make new connections with people that maybe they haven't interacted with or didn't know existed within your organizations. And this continues to rise year over year. We continue to see that. Lastly, again, when it comes to leader engagement, and I think we've intuitively known this over the years, but we also now have some more concrete data to prove this, which is when leaders are engaging, when leaders are participating, engagement of employees goes up. When I say engagement in this case, I mean engagement on your network, participation on your network goes up. So what we're seeing is a week after receiving a reply from a leader, daily active engagements were up 6%. So the example in our case would be if Satya Nadella, our CEO, if he responded to one of my posts, my active engagements went up 6% after that happened. So a month after, when a leader engages, daily active engagements on average were up 9%. And so what we want to help encourage is and what we know a lot of our customers want is better leader and employee interactions for leaders to better understand what's happening amongst their workforce and what their employees care about, and for employees to be able to have a voice and connect directly back with their leaders. And when this is happening, when leaders are actively participating in the culture of their company, engagement overall and participation overall also increases as well. And so what are we doing to really help continue to encourage this sort of leader interaction, help leaders be able to communicate and broadcast and connect with employees in the organization? And if you've been following anything that Microsoft has been doing over the last, I'd say, quarter or so, you'll know that there's a lot of talk around AI and some of the things that we're doing around AI. And maybe you've heard this term co-pilot. Maybe thumbs up or applause if this is something that you've been following with Microsoft, and something hopefully that you've tried out on your own. Maybe you've been playing with ChatGPT or maybe playing with some of the OpenAI tools, and it's great. Hopefully you've exposed yourself to some of those things. You start to see what some of those capabilities are. And so what I wanted to share with you is a little bit of insight into how we're thinking about AI and some of these scenarios. By the way, I think we all know this too, is that AI isn't necessarily new. Certainly some of the capabilities and advancements that we're seeing are at a much different level than we've had in the past. But AI has been a part of our platform for a long time, especially for as it powers things like the home feed experience and making sure that we're driving a very relevant experience, and you're seeing content in your home feed that is highly relevant and tuned to you, that we've been using AI and machine learning for a long time to power that. But certainly there are ways that we can continue to leverage the power of AI and for some of these new scenarios and new use cases. And so what I want to do is just share with you a little bit of how we're thinking about Copilot within Viva Engage. And first of all, before I get too far into it, I do want to say that as our team thinks about Copilot, we have a couple of principles, a very somewhat simple principles that we're thinking about as we apply Copilot to some of the Viva Engage scenarios. First of all, we want to use Copilot to provide inspiration and assistance. This isn't about just robots talking to robots. So what you'll never see is a post being automatically generated by AI. But we want to provide context. We want to provide assistance to a person through Copilot. The other thing that is super important, and it's probably different than when you see things like Copilot for Word or Copilot for PowerPoint or Copilot for something else. A key part of Viva Engage and a key part of the interactions that happen on Engage is that we want to is authenticity, right? We want people to be authentic. We want people to be human, right? And so a big part of the way that we're thinking about incorporating Copilot is to maintain and or improve authenticity through the content and contributions that people are making. The third thing that you'll see through some of these examples is that we always want to maintain a human in the middle, especially when I start to show you some of the things we're going to do to support our answers capability. We want to make sure that things like answers are vetted and answers are appropriate to the response that people are giving. We also want to make sure that when we're providing suggestions for something to post, that they have the opportunity to vet it and make sure that it's, again, authentic to themselves, it's in their voice, that it matches the tone that they want to represent. So again, we want to make sure that there's a human participating in the process at all times. So I'm going to share just a quick video that will show you a little bit of what this will look like for a leader to be able to participate in Viva Engage, and also using Copilot. And again, as you watch this video, some things I just want to have you keep an eye out for. We want to provide context for the leader. So the important thing around Copilot is just not, it's in this case, it's not just, hey, post something random, or here's you put a prompt in. We're providing some context, first of all, for that leader to be able to think about something that's very specific and contextual for their network and for their organization. And then after you see the demo, or after you see the video, I'll walk through a little bit of a live code demo just so you can see how this is starting to shape up. Okay, so let's take a look at how this will start to look in some real life code. And you all are some of the first to be able to see this in real action here. So here you see this is currently you still see this is still, we're still, even here in our Microsoft network, still branded as Yammer, but that'll soon of course be Viva Engage. But what you'll notice here is that as an end user here, I will still have access to some of these Copilot capabilities. And what we want to do is provide, first of all, some conversation starters. And these are going to be conversation starters based on activity that's happening within your network. It might be activity that's specific to you and interests that you might have. So here I'm being suggested with GPT-4 topic here. Maybe lots of conversations about business planning that's coming up for 2024. Women at Microsoft, or maybe I just want to start fresh with a writing assistant. But here I'm going to go into women at Microsoft here. And when I go in, so this is, by the way, we call this the publisher, the place that you go in and you type your message here. This is called, we call it the publisher. And you'll notice I have this Copilot experience. So here I can learn more about what's happening with this women at Microsoft topic. I can then go in here and I can put in a prompt around this. And again, this is very contextual, right? I can, in this case, it's very specific to what's happening in a specific topic here around women at Microsoft. I can pick a tone. Maybe I want a more excited tone or a casual tone or a formal tone. I'm going to keep it casual just for now. And maybe I can choose the length. Do I want it to be brief and concise? Do I want it to be medium? Maybe I want it to be a little bit more long form in nature. So I'm going to go ahead and generate the post. Live demo here. Hopefully this all works. But here you see. So now Copilot has given me some text here that I can start with. I can then go in and edit this. So if I want to, maybe I want to put in a line break just to make this a little bit easier to read. And then before these hashtags, I want to say, we're really excited for you to join this community. So again, you see some of the principles that we talked about earlier, really helping with sort of inspiration in posting, first of all, trying to maintain that authenticity and always giving that person a chance to modify or adjust the post to their tone or their own sentiment. So just a quick view of what this is starting to look like and how this is starting to shape up. I'll talk a little bit more about timeline here in just a little bit. But again, we're excited about the capabilities that this will have, both specifically for leaders. We really think this will help with leaders. Sometimes they need a little bit of inspiration on what to share. They're not sure what's topical. So we'll be able to provide topical information about what's happening around them and then provide them suggestions accordingly. So we're excited to do that both for leaders, but also for your end users and employees as well. I'm going to switch over and just talk about how we're going to start to apply these Copilot scenarios into other situations as well. Again, you might be familiar with our answers in Viva capability, and we want to continue to expand those capabilities and make it easier for people to ask questions and also, of course, to be able to find answers. So this is just an example. By the way, everything that we're showing here around Copilot, these are still some initial designs. It may not look exactly like you're seeing here, but you can at least get a sense for the direction that we're headed on some of these things. So don't get too caught up in the designs that you're seeing here. But one of the things that we certainly want to do is, can we detect questions that are happening within teams? And based on detecting questions in teams, we could look across answers and see and suggest to this person, hey, there's already some questions and answers that are around that seem similar to what you're asking about, and present that person with those answers so that they perhaps can avoid even having to go search and find those answers. Maybe the person still wants to or still needs to go ahead and ask that question. We provide them with an interface to ask that question through Answers in Viva. Now, again, here's where the human element also comes into play here with this question coach. The idea here is that, people say there's no such thing as a stupid question. Well, we want to help ensure that there are no stupid questions, or at least help people increase the probability of them getting an answer to their question through this question coach. So here in this case, the person might start with a prompt, and then we would provide some suggestions to help improve the question. So this person is asking for some background on Azure credits. We might say, we maybe want to provide some customer background on what you're looking for. They're looking for some best practices here as well. So maybe we might say, mention what kind of best practices you're looking for. So they might check that box and we might improve the question even more. Again, more things around style and tone. Maybe there's a bit of urgency needed around this particular question. So you could select urgent and adjust the tone there. And so that question can get posted. And then on the answering side, again, this is where we want to make sure, especially in our enterprise scenarios, that you have an ability to make sure that these answers are sort of vetted and that experts are able to provide the best answers possible. So here in this case, you'll see that a person answering this question, we might provide a suggested answer based on some search and some summarization, then also providing some other options to continue to improve the answer, maybe offering some additional resources, maybe some links to other references, mentioning Lydia on this and including her to provide more context perhaps. So again, this is where we want to make sure that somebody has an opportunity to put a human element to the answer that is being provided here. And of course, we can go ahead and post that question, and that can be posted within answers, and also being able to be surfaced across other platforms like search and other places that we're working on to make answers more viable as well. I just want to pause there and just see. I don't see any questions currently in the Q&A, but if anybody wants to come off mute, and I'd love any feedback that you have on any of these co-pilot scenarios, whether it be assisting leaders in crafting messages or any of these sort of knowledge and answers scenarios.
Yep. So we have a voice turned off, Steve. So
Oh,
team, please feel free to ask any and all your questions right in Q&A. So right at the top of the bar there, you should have a Q&A option to ask Steve any questions.
great. Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, I'll move on, and please feel free to go ahead and ask questions and we'll carry on here. We can come back if we need to. I'm going to transition just a little bit. One of the things that you saw in the video that I wanted to call out, you saw in that co-pilot video, they attached some images, and again, we know that when things like media are attached to a post, that they generally get much more engagement. Posts with a video or with an image attached get about 80% more engagement, whether it's a reaction or a reply. And you might know that recently we released a stories capability into public preview. And it's been great to get some feedback from our customers on this. So we have this stories capability, we have the stories carousel at the top of the feed. And so we've been getting some learnings and getting some feedback from customers on this. So I wanted to provide a little bit of an update on how we're evolving the stories capability. First of all, some of the things that we heard from customers. What's the difference between a story and something that you might post on Storyline? That was a big point of contention. Content that was in that stories carousel oftentimes felt stale. We took a little bit of a different approach to the way that stories are rendered and the way that stories are delivered. Stories in a consumer context, they expire every 24 hours or so. But we wanted to take a different approach because not everybody would come to see these stories on a frequent basis. So we didn't expire them in the same way that you have in some of the consumer apps. But as a result, some of the content felt stale, according to some of our customers. It was hard in some cases for content to reach the right audience. We had a limitation of only 3 minutes in creating the content. So those are just some of the things that we heard, and we wanted to improve upon based on the feedback that we got. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of some of what we're thinking about and some of the improvements that we're going to be making as a result of this feedback to the stories capability. So first of all, and again, these are just some designs that you'll see, and I'll talk more about timeline here in just a little bit. But one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to incorporate this media element directly into that publisher experience itself. So a couple things that you'll notice that we'll add is, number one, we're going to make it a bit more explicit around when to attach an image to an image or video to a post. You'll also have this new camera icon that will allow you to post a video or capture video directly from your desktop, or in case of mobile, of course, from your webcam as well. So here I'll be able to capture live video, and in fact, I'll be able to also annotate it. I can add text, or I can mark it up. I can add other visuals or images onto my capture as well. So I'll be able to do some live video capture directly from my computer itself. So at the end, I'll be able to scrub it and do some trimming should I need to trim out things. So I'll be able to do that as well to edit it before it gets posted. And then, of course, I'll be able to post that into my feed, or into the feed experience, or in a community, or to my own storyline. So the other piece is that we also want to make sure that that content also shows up in a more vibrant way within the feed experience itself. So one thing that you'll notice here, we're actually going to go away from that carousel concept a bit. We'll reintroduce it in some other ways, but you'll notice that that carousel concept that we introduced as part of stories, that will go away. Essentially what we want to do is just make sure that things like media or video that you are incorporating as part of your post is a bit more vibrant when it shows up in the feed. So just some examples of what this will look like is, of course, the last example I showed you was recording a video live from your webcam, but you'll also, of course, be able to upload media. So if I wanted to upload a video here, I could do that as well. The thing that we'll also start to incorporate here is a little bit of a WYSIWYG. So you can see before you post the message, what is it going to look like in people's feed? We hear often from, especially from folks that are in corp comms, they'll create these sort of private, I'll call it a dummy community. That's not really the right word, but it's sort of a playground for them to be able to post something and just see what it's going to look like before they actually post it. So one of the things that we'll do here is that we'll provide you a little bit of a preview of what that post will look like in the feed itself. Of course, from here, I can go ahead and post it. I can go back and make changes to it if I need to. But then when I go ahead and post it, you'll notice here, this is just an example of a different post, but you'll see that now we'll have this sort of full bleed effect here on this particular, in this case, an image. If I scroll down further, you'll see some other examples of how media will render within the feed here. You'll also notice here's the post that we just did from Ray here. And in this case, it's a video, and you can, of course, play this in line as well. If I click into it, now I'm brought into this sort of gallery view where I can also participate and have that conversation. That's something that we always want to maintain as part of the media element, is that ability to have a conversation around this media type. But then also now I can go through and I can see what are some of the other media posts that are also being posted within my feed. So for those of you that might be on Instagram, this concept is probably more akin to something like Reels, where you might be going through your feed and you see sort of normal Instagram posts, but in some cases you also see Reels in the flow of your feed. And then once you're in Reels, you can go through and you can scroll through and see other Reels as well. So similar concept is what we're going for here. So those are some updates that we're going to be making on the stories front. The timing for this is probably in the Q3, probably in the Q3 timeframe is when we plan on delivering some of these updates around stories. Please let me know if you have any questions or feedback around the new stories improvements. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Would love to hear any feedback that you might have on that as well. All right, so just switching back here to just to recap some things here, and then we can open up. I see there's at least one question, and we can answer any more questions that might come up. But just to recap, some of the overall capabilities that you have available to you today. So, of course, for those of you that are Microsoft 365 customers, E3, E5, what have you, everything up above here in the white, these are all capabilities that you have available to you today. For those of you that are Viva Suite customers, we released some new capabilities to you all in the sort of light gray area. So a lot of those leadership identification, leader audience identification, ask me anything experiences, new campaigns, those are all part of the Suite answers. The answers in Viva are also part of the Suite license as well. So those are all things that you have available today. Going forward, as far as some of the things that there are lots of things that the team is working on that I haven't covered today, but that you can see here on this timeline of things that we're working on. Everything above here, above this premium label here, these are all things that, again, for Microsoft 365 customers, you'll get as part of your current investment. So, of course, I talked about things like the Yammer rebrand and the timing of that. We'll have some controls for those of you that haven't enabled enabled Storyline yet, maybe you're waiting and you wanted to be able to enable Storyline for a specific set of people within your organization. Maybe you have a specific set of leaders that you want to enable Storyline for. We'll have soon a per user Storyline control for you to be able to do that. You'll also have an admin control to be able to control the notifications that go out for Storyline content that goes out. We also will be rolling out a community membership bulk upload. So as you're creating these new communities, if you want to do a bulk upload of members into that community, you'll be able to do that. We did recently roll out some @mention improvements. So now you can remove the last name, and you want it to be sort of a less formal @mention. You can remove the last name out of the @mention now. We also recently released the Viva Engage app for Outlook, both on desktop and on web. So the same sort of Viva Engage experience that you get with inside of Teams, you can now have inside of Outlook as well. I mentioned those stories improvements that'll come out soon in the Q3 timeframe. Also, Microsoft Data Connect, or MGDC, will be providing some ways for you to do a bulk data export by providing some of those data export endpoints through Microsoft Graph Data Connect. On the premium front, you'll also look for those of you that are Viva Suite customers, will have the ability for you to be able to draft posts soon and also be able to schedule posts as well. As we get into later on in the calendar year, more towards the second half of the calendar year, I mentioned that the domain name rebrand will happen. The Copilot, so a lot of the Copilot scenarios that I mentioned or that you saw earlier on, those will start to show up in the second half of the calendar year. We're also working on things like being able to post to multiple audiences. So if a leader needs to post to, let's say, finance and also marketing as well, we're going to provide capabilities to do that. We've also heard from customers wanting to be able to post to multiple communities at the same time. That's something that the team is also working on. Multi-tenants, I don't know if many of you are in that situation, but maybe you have your own tenant, but you also have another business or another brand that exists in another tenant. So we're working on multi-tenant capabilities for you to be able to connect and communicate across those tenants in a more federated fashion. And then also community-specific AMAs and community-specific campaigns. Today the AMAs and campaigns that we've released are great for that sort of broad company-wide scenario. In some cases, we've heard from our customers, they want those capabilities specific to communities as well. So we're working on that in addition. So hopefully that gives you a view on, I gave you a view on some of the things that we're actively working on, and then this gives you a view on some of the other capabilities that the team is working hard on delivering. So go ahead and keep those questions rolling in. I see one question in there. I can answer. Will this question and answer piece be able to pull information from other systems? For example, if the system is in ServiceNow. Yeah, in fact, that's the next phase of what our team is working on from an answers perspective. Is overall the goal is that we want answers to be this hub for people to go to be able to ask and answer questions, and not have to worry about where the source of content is, but being able to pull it all into one central place. From an employee experience perspective, I think you all can relate to this. When it can be really frustrating when you don't know where to go to ask a question, you don't know where to go to find experts, and so that's really what we're trying to do with this answer hub, is be that central place. So yes, that's the next evolution of this, is that we want to pull in content from, we're looking at how to pull in content from places like ServiceNow, ingesting maybe a frequently asked questions list and pulling that into answers as well, connecting answers into communities in Engage as well. So yeah, that's the next phase that we're working on, is making sure that it's much broader than just the destination itself. See, yes, this presentation and recording will be available later on. I'll go ahead and just go forward here on just some other things. Actually, let me go back into sharing in PowerPoint Live. Or actually, maybe Jonathan, if you wouldn't mind going back into PowerPoint Live, I think you're going to end on some things here. If you want to bring up this Viva Engage adoption page just as a link if people want to access some other adoption related resources. Really the rest of this time is for question and answer here, and we can answer questions, show things if people want to see more. And there's other resources here in the PowerPoint. It's like there's another question. When you say Viva Engage app for Outlook, is that going to be similar to the way Teams integrates into Outlook? Can you explain this a bit more? Sure. And in fact, maybe I will steal the screen back here in a moment, just to show if I can show what this is going to look like. But essentially, if you're using the Viva Engage app in Teams, if you have it, hopefully you have it pinned on the left rail. You can access Viva Engage directly from inside of Teams. So we provide that essentially that same app inside of Outlook now. So you have a Viva Engage app inside of Outlook. So sorry, Jonathan, I'm going to steal this share back if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go for it.
But here you'll see. Here you'll see I'm in Outlook. In this case, I'm in Outlook on the web, but like I said, this is available on Outlook desktop as well. But on the left-hand side, you see this Viva Engage icon. So this now, if I'm a person that likes Outlook and wants to spend all my time in Outlook, that's sort of my workhorse for productivity. I can do that, and I can participate. I can access all my Viva Engage feed here. I can access my communities over here on the right-hand side. I can get to my storyline. I can see leadership corner in this case, all the things here. And I can still remain inside of Outlook. So when I'm ready to go back to my emails, boom, I'm back here to emails. So hopefully that answers the question on the Viva Engage app in Outlook. Like I said, this is already rolled out for folks. We deployed the mobile version of Viva Connections. Can you integrate Viva Engage in the dashboard as a tile? Yes, you can. Let's see if we can go. So this is an example, and I'm not sure if I have any specific. Here you see there is a tile here on this particular dashboard. So if you want to link to maybe a specific community, or maybe there's an announcement that's been made, you could put a tile for something Viva Engage related on the dashboard. There's also a feed, so there's also a Viva Connections feed experience that you could also incorporate that will bring content from Viva Engage onto your Connections homepage itself. So if there are posts from communities that I'm a part of, or announcements, or maybe there's featured conversations, those will show up in that Viva Connections feed. So this would be an additional option that you could put on your Viva Connections homepage as well. So you have the feed, but also I think to the point of the question the person is asking around, that Lucille is asking around the dashboard, you could put a tile there as well. Great to have the app access in Viva Connections and Teams on mobile, so all Viva apps are accessible in one place. You can actually do this. So let's see if I can I'm not sure if I'll be able to get into my, if you give me a moment, I could show it on my mobile device here as well. But you do have this ability. So if you have this connections, I might not be able to show this on my screen here, but. Sorry for the break in the action here. Let me share my screen here.
You're not able to do it, we can always post in here. Oh, it looks like you're broadcasting. Great.
Okay, so let's see, go back. Where is it at? Viva Connections. So this is our Microsoft instance of Viva Connections here, but I can go to my feed. All right, well, it starts me on the dashboard. And so of course, these are sort of Microsoft specific things here. But I can go to my feed here. And again, I'm gonna see content here from things that are happening in our articles that are being posted, but also there will be here's an example of a Viva Engage post in my network here. So hopefully that helps. Any other questions? I'll throw it back to you, Jonathan. Those are the main things that I wanted to share here. We'll get out of here a little bit early on a Friday afternoon. Actually, there is a hand raised.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. And I think here, I'm going to pop up. Can you see my screen here now? Yeah.
Yep.
So I appreciate everything that you kind of talked to us. I mean, every time I listen to you and others talk about Copilot, that really just blows my mind what's coming down the pipe. So thank you for everything that you have going here. If we could ask for some feedback, right, for not only just this session, but other sessions that you have started to attend. Sarah, Jonathan, myself, we work really hard to kind of make sure that we have the right types of summit, provide sessions that we provide to you. So if you could fill out the survey, with that survey, when you fill it out, we have potential for some awesome prizes that we can give away for that as well too. So you can either click the link here or, pop your phone out and click the QR code there and give us some good feedback here. Stay connected with us, right? So this plus other sessions over the last week, we're adding them up to our health and life science community page there. So there's the link to connect with us. Please do connect. Also, we have one more session. I want to kind of go back here later today. It's going to be 2 o'clock Eastern time. Please, if you haven't registered, go ahead and do that. And we thank you. We really do. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for attending this session and others. It's been just an awesome, awesome week for us so far. We appreciate everything that you guys do, and we'll see